Some are speculating that these mysterious drones could be new drones the cartels could be utilizing. To talk more about drones at the border is Ron Vitello, Senior Advisor of the U.S. Customs and Border Protection to the Trump administration. Ron, good to see you tonight. Thanks for making the time.
Thanks for inviting me.
We've reported that Border Patrol agents have seen hundreds of drones a day from cartels. Some of them, though, cannot be explained by Border Patrol agents, including one in Tucson. What do you know about anomalous drone activity along the border?
Well, it's very interesting. I think it parallels a little bit what we saw in New Jersey earlier in the year, right? No one knew where those drones were doing, where they came from. Eventually, I think they got to the bottom of it and they realized there was, sanctioned activity. These cartels are enormously powerful, and they use drones every day along our southwest border to surveil agents, kind of counter surveillance missions. They bring drugs across, and they attack Mexican authorities on their side of the border. And so the anomalous ones, they've got unlimited funding, and so maybe they have technology that we're not used to seeing, in the drone space, and certainly on our own border.
Yeah, we saw some of this leaked video for the first time last night from a Border Patrol whistleblower. Some of these anomalous objects did not have heat signatures, appeared ice cold on the footage. What did you make of the new leaked video of these mysterious sightings along the border?
Well, again, this is something that we need to be careful about. The risks that involve the agents that are on the line there, the border communities as well. I suspect that this is, the cartel, on the cutting edge of technology, using different techniques, maybe different kinds of machines. This is what they do. That's part of their business model, to always be able to iterate and innovate so that they can continue to sell their poison into the United States.
I see. So before your mind goes to alien or extraterrestrial intelligence, you think the cartels could be behind these unexplained objects in the sky?
Well, we know that they're already using drugs at the southwest border, again, for counter surveillance, to bring contraband into the United States. So it wouldn't surprise me that they have some emerging technology or have innovated it on their own. The government's learned quite a bit in the war in Ukraine. Both sides have taken drones to a more lethal and more surreptitious way, right? They can fly now without the kinds of things that they would have had to use a couple of years ago. So this iteration by the cartels is nothing new with regard to tunnels, offshore capabilities, stuff that they do at the border just to continue to bring their poison in.
We were speaking with NewsNation's Ross Coulthart last hour, who said that the instinct of the government is to dismiss or cover up these incursions. And in fact, that former Border Patrol agent, Bob Thompson, did initially bring this to the attention of his superiors. What does all of this say about transparency in our country? Do you think that Border Patrol is doing enough to rigorously investigate what's happening here?
Well, I think that it's been reported. It's in the in the investigative stages. There are authorities in the United States, like the FAA, that will be very concerned about unlicensed unmanned drones. But we do have this problem at the southwest border, right? These cartels don't follow any of the rules that we must follow to detect drones, to take them into custody, or to prevent them from coming into the United States.
Ron Vitello, appreciate your time tonight. Have a great rest of your evening. Thank you.
Thanks.
You spoke with the experts. What was their take?
They were totally flabbergasted by it, Natasha. What they couldn't explain was how an object like that had no visible means of propulsion. As Peter Reale explained in that interview, there is an issue with the fact that on a thermal signature, such as the camera is displaying there, you should see a hot point for an exhaust, maybe a rocket motor or a propeller. There's no evidence of any kind of heat source. And this is part of a broader phenomenon that's being seen not just in Arizona, but right across this area of New Mexico, Nevada, Arizona. I'm getting a lot of people contacting me about this particular type of object, this cigar-shaped object. Some people people describe it as the Tic Tac, a slightly stubby cigar-shaped object. There are a lot of people telling me they're seeing this shape and image, and it doesn't display the kind of propulsion system or the kind of thermal signature that you'd expect to see. One of the things that's really fascinating now, Natasha, and the reason why this is becoming more of an issue, I suspect these objects have been around for a very long time. But what's happening is the ease with which we can now procure technology, such as infrared cameras in our phones, which allow us to capture these images in ways that we couldn't even 5 or 10 years ago. And so a lot of people have been contacting me. I get literally thousands of these a week from people telling me that they're seeing strange objects, be they the cigar. I haven't had anybody send me a rubber duck, but they've sent me plenty of images of anomalous objects, including, by the way, the jellyfish. And I can't explain it, but what is not explainable is good scientists like the Scientific Coalition for the Studies of UAPs in Huntsville have had a look at these videos, and they just haven't been able to provide an explanation for them. They are truly anomalous. And at what point do we acknowledge as a country that this is an issue? This is an issue of national security. We have objects breaching our airspace which are seriously inexplicable, even to known conventional science. This should be a national security and flight safety issue. What do the agencies do? They bury their head in the sands.
Yeah, speaking of the jellyfish, a UAP you just brought up, a NewsNation viewer has a question for you specifically about that. We will ask you closer to the end of the show. You had a firsthand experience seeing potential UAP drone sightings through night vision goggles with a UFO tour guide. Can you tell me more about that? Did you see anything, and what were your takeaways from that experience?
Okay, so Melinda Leslie operates a UAP spotting business in Sedona, Arizona. And I've been hearing about Melinda's work for quite some time, and she's got superb third generation night vision goggles, top of the line $10,000 night vision goggles. And these allow you to see amplified light. And we've been hearing from witnesses who've actually been stopped by men with guns, with uniforms on, in parts of the remote Bureau of Land Management land, in and around the coyly named Secret Mountain, just a few kilometres from Sedona. We've been told by many locals that there are weird things that have been going on in that area. People have been stopped by men with guns in an area that's not known or acknowledged to be a military site, and they've been told to get the heck out of there as fast as possible. In one case, one of the witnesses described seeing a vehicle that had stopped him going down a ramp that had opened hydraulically in a hillside and concealing to be essentially looking like just a simple wall of normal rock. There's something going on. There are a lot of people who believe there is an incredible as this may sound, an underground facility located near Sedona. It's an allegation that's been around for quite a few years, and we spent a lot of time investigating it. And I do think it has validity. I've actually spoken to people who claim to have been inside this facility. And so what Melinda's night vision goggles captured were, and I saw it for myself, an orb-shaped object, gigantic golden orb-shaped object coming up from behind Secret Mountain near Sedona, pulsing, like almost pulsing, like a plasmatic glow. And then it lifted slowly and then took off.
Ross,
chased by,
you saw this? You saw this?
I saw it. Yeah, I saw it.
During your investigation on the ground, this was tracked on camera for 40 minutes, and you were finding it was going in circles. How significant is that detail, and what are you taking away from this rubber duck incident?
Well, the fact that it was going in circles is disproving any suggestion that it was just a balloon floating randomly with the prevailing winds. It was intelligently controlling itself and circling a specific area, which we actually searched with ground-penetrating radar just to see if there was anything there. What fascinates me is you have a situation now where military pilots, civilian pilots, Customs Border Protection, local civilian witnesses are reporting with frequency anomalous objects doing what apparently seem to be intelligently controlled maneuvers over remote parts of the Arizona desert. And the question we asked was, could there be something happening in Arizona that's not being publicly disclosed by the US government? And that's actually what led us in the latter part of the program to head up towards Sedona. I do think that what is possibly happening, we know from the stories that I've done previously with people like Jake Barber and David Grush, we know that there are allegations of a legacy UAP retrieval program that is retrieved, unbelievable as this may sound, unbelievable but true, non-human intelligence technology. And we know that there are locations, hidden locations, where this technology is being experimented with and worked with. And I think there's a body of evidence to suggest that there are perhaps non-human and perhaps some human technologies operating in this airspace. That's what my takeaway is. I don't think that this is an incursion by organised crime cartels from Mexico. I do think that what we need to look at here is the very real possibility that the Customs and Border Protection stumbled across some kind of craft that are, in some cases, emanating from covert US government facilities that the US is trying to keep quiet. And I do worry about the fact that the US is still maintaining the pretense that it has no knowledge of the existence of any kind of non-human technology, because it's becoming very, very clear good people in different agencies, notably in this case Bob Thompson from CBP, you know, they're seeing these things. Military pilots are seeing these things. And what do we do to these people? We gaslight them. And the government tells them they're not seeing what they're seeing. And I can tell you, Natasha, there are a lot of witnesses who, frankly, are sick to death of being gaslit. They're coming forward and they're determined to get this story told. And I think there's pressure now on the government to be more transparent about what it knows.
And Ross, tell me a little bit more about whistleblower and former Border Patrol agent Bob Thompson. What was his journey to bring these videos to light? And what has this reporting process been like for you? I know it's a rigorous one.
So Bob's somebody who has been working in national security. He's been keeping our borders secure, and he ended up in essentially the aviation wing of Customs and Border Protection, making sure that there was adequate monitoring over our borders. And as we know, this has been a controversial issue. It was a major election issue for the incoming administration. There's been a lot of political capital made out of pointing out the fact that our borders were, frankly, wide open. And I got to see that myself with our correspondent Ali Bradley on the border. So Bob was concerned that inside CBP, when he was raising his concerns about these anomalous objects being seen by CBP aircraft and by military witnesses that he'd spoken to, there just seemed to be an inertia. Nothing was happening. And, you know, I don't think it's a conspiracy, Natasha. I don't think there are people inside Customs and Border Protection who are basically saying, we've got to cover this up. More often than not, the explanation is a simple screw-up. Nobody wants to admit that they have no explanation. And so whilst these objects are breaching airspace and coming into areas that are sensitive and getting in the way of military aircraft, and in one case we know about even colliding with them, I think the problem for Bob's bosses was they determined to put their heads in the sand because it's just too hard. How do you explain something that you can't control? And this is the bigger issue with the drones incursions. So we have a huge problem, frankly, where drones are breaching US airspace and the US government is putting its head in the sand on the issue.
Red tape, roadblocks, and the runaround. A new UFO whistleblower is sounding the alarm on just how difficult it's been to report an unacknowledged special access program called Immaculate Constellation to Congress. Former U.S. national security official Matthew Brown sat down for an in-depth interview with investigative journalist Jeremy Corbell on his Weaponized podcast. Brown said he decided to tell his boss that he had stumbled upon a top-secret program that was gathering images and videos of UFO encounters from classified military servers. But when he went to his boss, the message was not well received.
Like, stop. Did you read this? And I don't answer, but I just
look him in the eye and I look at the screen and I'm like, of course I read this.
That's how you know it exists.
And he definitely picked up on that, and the conversation ended with him saying, delete it, and he left the room and we never spoke of it again.
Brown says he didn't stop there. He went on to report Imcan to his boss's boss and to other higher-ups. He says still nothing happened. He eventually decided to seek whistleblower protection and submitted written testimony to Congress. And after a couple meetings with congressional liaisons, still nothing happened. So Brown decided to tell the State Department he's going to go public. He says his main concern at that time was his own safety.
I'm definitely under no illusions that the U.S. government in some capacity knows about me. I'm mainly concerned about foreign intelligence and their possibility of collecting on me. I'm in D.C., spy capital of the world. I was very concerned about that.
Brown says he was equally concerned that the systems put in place to help whistleblowers come forward and protect them seem to have failed him every step of the way. Joining us now is investigative journalist and co-host of the Weaponized podcast, Jeremy Corbell. Jeremy, welcome back. Matthew Brown really describes what he said was serious red tape when he was just trying to report what he saw. Why is that?
Yeah, it's even much bigger than that. I mean, Matthew Brown is an American patriot. And as journalists, George Knapp and I, we are pit bulls on this issue of protecting whistleblowers. Congress has made a show of this. They want whistleblowers to come forward. Well, here you go. So Matthew Brown has inside knowledge of the deception of our government by elements of the intelligence community. He has tried to raise the red flag. He has tried to tell people what's going on. And he's done everything in his power to do it the right way. And this was the best way now, is to come forward with journalists like me and George.
Yeah, but Congress has also made a big show of investigating UFOs and UAPs. I don't understand why they wouldn't be jumping on this.
Right. I think it's a dynamic process. I still want this process to work. And I have been fighting with Congress, really great allies in Congress and senators, to make this work. They have to allow people to be heard in open congressional hearings. That's the whole thing.
Do you think that part of the problem was that what Matthew Brown was describing in this Immaculate Constellation program sounded so far-fetched that people were just like, yeah, I don't believe it?
Not at all. Not at all. This was taken seriously from the very beginning, all the way up through as he brought it up to people's interests. So first of all, there's a difference between the Immaculate Constellation briefing versus the field report, which we successfully got onto congressional record at the last hearing. I brought that into Congress and got that on the record. So the difference is the briefing is what he was first initially exposed to. That's what he raised the alerts about. That was the entry point to him and his extensive long investigation into this. If you read the first part of what he submitted and what we got onto congressional record, it says this document is the result of a multi-year investigation into the subjects of UAP, technologies of unknown origin, and non-human intelligence. Nobody thought this was far-fetched. Everybody took it seriously.
And how did Matthew Brown get access to these documents? Does he say?
Absolutely. If people watch the first two parts of the interviews, you will see step by step. We walk through exactly what happened. At first, it was accidental exposure to the Immaculate Constellation.
So he just opened something that he, by accident, and saw something crazy inside, basically.
In fact, he was raising the alert that if this is an unacknowledged special access program, that it was filed in the wrong place. And then he felt threat that he had seen it and was seeking guidance after he got classes on how to deal with what they call spillage, which is where you see a compartmentalized program when you're not supposed to. This kid has done everything right, and he has not received the support that he should. And Congress should hear what he has to say, because right now they're in the dark.
So when he says he hasn't gotten the whistleblower protection to which he's entitled, and you agree with that, what has he not gotten in this? You know, he says he feels unsafe. Can you elaborate on that?
A little bit. I will elaborate on that now. But the main thing is we have been told by our government, hey, you need to come forward. Here's the process to do it. You need to tell us what you know about non-human intelligence, about these UAP. And he's done that, but really there's no follow-up, there's no protections. He has received numerous kind of issues because of his accidental exposure. So what George Knapp and I are trying to do, not just as journalists, but as human beings, is we're trying to make sure that people follow through with those protections that people need to and want to come forward to inform Congress. And I'll tell you something, Elizabeth, that I think is really fascinating. If people really watch this, at one point, Matthew Brown said, "My blood ran cold." And this was a briefing that he was able to read the transcripts of while he was in position. And it was between the former head of Aero and Senator Rubio said about the legacy program. Well, what the hell has the executive branch been doing? Had they been running this for 60 years without congressional oversight? This is about the legacy UFO program. Yeah. And the fact is they have. There's a cover-up. It's in the House and Congress is pissed.
All right. Jeremy Corbell, something tells me we're going to be hearing a lot more about this.
Next week.
Next week, that's right. And by the way, Jeremy.
On Capitol Hill, a renewed push for answers in the skies. A group of House lawmakers say it is time for transparency when it comes to unidentified anomalous phenomena, or UAPs. Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna says fresh legislation is coming, as well as back-to-back hearings, all in an attempt to force federal agencies to come clean. It's all on the heels of a bombshell briefing featuring top experts, including Harvard astrophysicist Dr. Avi Loeb. The packed session was to dissect the science, security risks, and what some believe is a government cover-up. From crash retrieval programs to calls for declassifying Navy UAP footage, lawmakers insist this is no longer an issue on the fringes of society. They're promising a systemic shakeup in how this country deals with the unknown. And Dr. Avi Loeb is joining us live right now. He gave a 20-minute presentation at this week's event and has been at the forefront in the push for UAP transparency for some time now. Dr. Loeb, always good to see you. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
And it was interesting, on the day before the congressional briefing, you visited the Pentagon and you saw some of the tools the Defense Department is using to combat, quote, terrestrial threats. Can you explain this technology and what role AI is playing?
Right. So there is the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office in the Pentagon that is looking at past events. It has been reviewing them for a couple of years, but it's time now to, instead of being obsessed with past events where the data is limited, to build new observatories that search the sky. In principle, if these objects are out there, we should be able to find them. And I believe that research, scientific research, is necessary in order to promote our understanding of what the nature of these unidentified objects is, because there are two possibilities. Either they are human-made, if they are technological, or they're extraterrestrial. And the simple assumption is that they are human-made, in which case it's a great threat to national security if we can't identify them. We need a system that can identify objects smaller than the Chinese spy balloon, which was barely identified initially. For that, we need to invest money in artificial intelligence software and in a new system of sensors that would give us much better capabilities, because what we have at our disposal right now is much better than people had for decades in the past.
Yeah. What were your initial thoughts after the hearing? And can you share with us what the atmosphere was like behind closed doors?
I think it's time for the U.S. government to invest $1 billion in trying to figure out the nature of unidentified anomalous phenomena, because even if it's not extraterrestrial, that would allow us to have a better defense system that monitors the sky and can alert the Department of Defense of any threat. In the days that drones are used very frequently, currently there are technologies that we might not be aware of, that adversarial nations are using. And we should figure out what is flying in our sky. Now, from a scientific point of view, even if 1 in a billion of these objects happens to be of extraterrestrial origin, the discoverers will get the Nobel Prize for it. So there is an opportunity, in my opinion, to attract the best minds in science to such a project. And I suggested investing $1 billion in figuring out the answer so that we can clear out what these objects are. And I will be very happy if the Department of Defense will use the artificial intelligence software that we develop or the sensors that are being used to enhance the identification of objects in the sky.
Yeah, it's interesting. You're saying it's a win-win here, because even if it turns out that these are not extraterrestrial in origin, we will have developed AI tools and sensors that will make our country safer from terrestrial threats, from human-made threats. What should be the task force's next step in bringing meaningful data to light, information like people like you should have access to?
Right. So there is a second push towards revealing what the U.S. government knows, what kind of data or materials it has at its possession. And of course, that could save us time. It was not available to scientists like myself so far, and I would be delighted to help government figure it out. And, you know, just like any other puzzle in science, we should be able to do it as long as we have the best minds dedicated to the problem. And I do feel that given the importance of the problem of are we alone, this could be a project that attracts the best minds, similar to the Manhattan Project a long while ago. It's an opportunity also to make taxpayers happy, because if you were to ask them, what question in science would you like to know the answer to? It's most likely, are we alone?
Dr. Avi Loeb, it's always a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.